Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done a video review. This film is by Takashi Miike. The only other film that I've seen of his is Audition. You can see my review on my channel, which is up now. But this goes out of its way to be one of the most disturbing and graphic pieces of film I've ever seen. Not only because of its controversial context, but a lot of the deaths and the torture and the violence in this film are very, very, very high-end gore and just graphic. This certainly is a piece of extreme cinema. The first scene of the film, which really does set the mood of the film, whether you're gonna like it or not, or whether you're gonna actually be able to sit through it, is a scene of a man and a woman in an apartment, and the man starts beating up the woman and is about to rape her. Now, later on in the film you find out that they are a couple and it's an abusive relationship, and she's not happy and she's in pain and she hates it. And whilst this man's beating her up and just about to rape her, there's a guy standing outside the window looking at them, and then as soon as the guy turns around he runs away, and you're left with a horrible like an image of of white goo dripping off a plant onto the floor, and this is meant to be semen. That really does set the mood for the film, and then you're introduced to what seems like the main character, the character depicted on the box. Now, I hadn't seen, well, I looked at the trailer before watching this film, but I hadn't researched it, and you find out that this character isn't actually Ichi, which was a bit of a shock. It kind of, like, everything that I'd seen towards the film suggested that he was Ichi. I think his name's Kawasha, I don't know, but his gang's leader has been killed or has gone missing, and the whole film is about these people in the gang trying to find out who killed the leader and if he's still alive. He has some incredibly horrific torture and punishing kind of interrogation methods, which are why this film starts becoming incredibly extreme. The first scene which made me cringe and almost back away from watching the rest of the film is a scene where he's tied someone up with hooks in their back, all across their back, so he's hanging like that, connected with all these hooks digging into his skin, and his method of torture and violence is with like long needles, similar to Audition. It's probably just a reference or throwback to that, or just something Takashi Miike like. The most horrific thing happens, and you can see it coming a mile away, is he picks up boiling hot chip pan oil and pours it on this man's back as he's hanging from these hooks which are digging into him, and his skin starts to fry and bubble, and then he pours it on the guy's head, and half of his face just gets burnt off. I'm going to go into spoilers very, very quickly, like in the next minute or so, because I need to talk about Ichi. But if you haven't seen the film, please go and watch it if you're into this kind of cinema. If you watch the first half an hour and don't like it, then I would suggest not watching the rest of it, because it doesn't get better, it only gets worse, and it's a lot more violent and graphic and horrible in the context of its storyline and what happens to the characters. If you haven't seen the film, go watch it. It's really cool, arty kind of style, but it's just Japanese, as I said at the start. The storyline is really good, and the acting is very impressive. I mean, I can't tell what they're saying, but, you know, for an Asian film, it's impressive. Ichi. Ichi is, later in the film, we centre around the character of Ichi a bit more towards the end of the film. What we realise is that Ichi has, in his past, been bullied, and he was also present at the rape of a girl, and he didn't do anything about it. Now, as soon as we see this from the perspective of, you know, this has happened in the past, you start to sympathise with the character. You really do understand, well, you don't really understand, but you kind of can get why he is how he is, and he's in his room just playing video games all day. He doesn't talk to anyone. When he gets angry, that's when the killer inside of him comes out, and he's got a mentor, or like a kind of like a father figure, which is another theme of the film, is father figures. He's got a father figure who isn't a nice father figure, and he gets Ichi to do all of his dirty work and kill whoever he wants. Ichi's method of killing is really, really cool. He has a knife, kind of like a knife in the middle of his shoe, so it's kind of like an ice skate kind of thing. It sticks out the back of his shoe and the front, I think, and he basically just slices and goes to town on anyone. And you see a couple of scenes of the remains of the people that Ichi has killed, and there's just blood everywhere. That's all on the ceilings, all over the walls. There's like pieces of intestines all over the place. Some guy's face actually gets chopped off sideways, and it hits a wall and slides down it. But then later on in the film we find out that Ichi is a demented and deranged person, and we do find out from another character that he killed his parents when he was young. And piecing together all the information we've been given, we realise that at the start of the film, the person who ejaculated whilst watching a woman getting raped was Ichi, and we figure out that he has a problem climaxing sexually because of everything that has happened, and because what he is into. And it's really, really disturbing, because this is a character you were introduced to about halfway through the film, and as soon as you're introduced to him you fully sympathise with him. He doesn't mean to be who he is. Everything in his past has made him be the person he is, and that's really important in the film, which makes some of the scenes even harder to kind of converse, because you can understand why he is how he is. And one of the most disturbing scenes in the film for me wasn't a graphic scene, it wasn't a violent scene, it was a scene where he explained that when the two girls were getting raped at the start, he didn't do anything, and you kind of think as an audience and he shouldn't blame himself for not doing anything, but then he says, I wanted to join in, I wanted to rape this woman. And that's when the film just goes like slap bang out the window with its ideas. I mean, that was one of the most horrible things to think about during the film. And then for the rest of the film, he is this character, and sometimes you can sympathise with him and sometimes you can't, because of his views are extreme. They're too extreme for how they should. Some of the scenes in the film are very, very, very disturbing, including a scene right near the end of the right near the end of the film is where a hooker from a bar dresses up like the schoolgirl at the start of the in his past, and pretends to be her to see how Ichi is and how he's managing with life. And she says a load of weird stuff to see if he is into that kind of stuff. The scariest thing that Ichi says is she wanted me to rape her because she didn't want me to rape her, so it's okay. And that really is hard to conceive, even from his messed up viewpoint. Just these conversations that the characters have, just because of the disturbing content of the conversations itself, instead of, you know, the disturbing concept and content and graphic content of the rest of the film, which is really quite clever. I really enjoy how Takashi Miike does this, because in its sexual content, which is incredibly extreme, pushes pushes it to the limit, you don't see a whole much of graphic detail, but it's all talked about. And then on the other hand, we have this Hakachina guy who likes to kill people, and that graphic content is incredibly horrific. And that graphic content slowly becomes more acceptable compared to the content of the conversations which the other characters have in the film. I love the style of blood in the film. You know, someone's head gets chopped off and there's just loads of blood splurting out from like a hose pipe or something. I like that kind of gore in these kind of films. At the end of the film, Ichi's on a rooftop and kills this man who he thinks is his brother, and then breaks down into crying, and he's such a sad, depraved character, and he's a lost soul in the world. He doesn't belong here, and he's screaming and he's in a ball and he's crying his eyes out. And then Miike does this thing where towards the end of the film, similar to Audition, you can't tell whether what's going on is actually what's going on or what's going on is a character's imagination. and that's really cleverly implemented in this scenario. We have characters like this guy, I forgot his name, talking to someone, and then he's in a different place altogether, or he's not there at all. And at the end of the film, the conclusion is really worrying as well. It shows just a boy in the world with similar kind of... It seems like the parallels between Ichi's upbringing and this little boy's upbringing are pretty similar. I mean, he doesn't kill his parents, but he doesn't want to be with his mother, and he wants to be with his father. And as soon as his father dies, he goes and attacks Ichi on the floor by kicking his face in. And he's only like a 11-year-old boy, which is really disturbing in itself. One last thing I want to mention about this film, there's one scene I absolutely love, is when this character takes off the rings around his mouth, and then some guy punches him in the face, and his hand gets stuck in his mouth and it opens up because of the scars there. So he's like that, and his hand's like stuck in it, and the guy's just like looking at him as his hand's in his mouth, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed that scene. And this has been my review of Ichi the Killer by Takashi Miike. By far the most disturbing and extreme film I've ever seen. I really do need to watch it again because of the different themes in the film. I need to really understand what happens when some of the scenes change, like I needed to watch Audition again before I really understood it. I give this film a 9 out of 10, but do not watch it if the first half an hour doesn't take your fancy. If you really are disturbed by the first half an hour, you are not going to gain anything by finishing the film. But I really do like this film, which is surprising to say. I wasn't really expecting it after the first half an hour, but I did persist and it did get a lot better. This has been my review of Ichi the Killer. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Comment, rate and subscribe. This is me. I've been out. Bye.